We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah, that was a little glitch there, but it worked out perfectly. That's a good tease. Look, Nick Caserio, not one to speak, about. He's not going to make a lot of bold promises during training camp. He's been through a few of these. He knows there's a lot of work to do, but he is excited about at least one thing about this team. He was asked, "Hey, Nick, what excites you about this team this year?"
Yeah, I want to say the attitude and the approach to work. We have a lot of guys that are very diligent, and it's about the work and not really worried about a bunch of superfluous things or things on the periphery that really don't have any relevance to winning. I might have mentioned this to Sean and Seth a little bit earlier in the spring, but just anecdotally, it was a little bit later in the spring. I want to say it was sometime in June, where our D'Amico and our offices are situated. The weight room's right behind us, and you have the window. So I hear just some random noise, and I kind of peek my head over my shoulder. I mean, Higgins and Noel were in there with their helmets on, catching off the jugs in the afternoon when nobody was around. So I would say that's kind of a microcosm of the team and the players that we have, and that's where we want to keep the focus. And I think our players are motivated more about just putting a good product out there and putting the work in, and not necessarily worry about other things that are outside of their control.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest things, and you guys know I said this from the very beginning that I think D'Amico and Bill Belichick are more alike than people would think and realize. So Cacerio, having worked for a couple decades with Belichick, obviously appreciates some of the really good things that he did. The biggest thing that D'Amico and Belichick, I think, both genuinely live and breathe is that you've got to have guys who are just passionate football junkies, and that whatever their scouting report is, whatever their physical potential is, that it really doesn't matter, because as a guy, if a guy who with less physical potential just puts in more work day in and day out, no days off, all of that they're gonna overcome and surpass the guys who end up being first round busts. And it looks great on paper, but it's hard to execute. It's like running a full court press in basketball. Looks great on paper, but good luck getting your team to execute and to be in the kind of conditioning that you need to do that. I think Cacerio and D'Amico have really done a good job of forming a relationship where they can identify guys who are like that, who are guys like Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. The danger then becomes, okay, you got to have guys who work hard, but one thing where I think Bill O'Brien didn't necessarily execute that strategy properly is understanding that, okay, yes, the working hard is a prerequisite, but that's not what gets you on the field. Ultimately, it's, hey, what can you produce for us on the field? And what you hope is that you just cumulatively have this effect where you've got so many guys that are workaholics like that you end up with more guys who are actually producing on the field. So there's an ideological side of it, but then there's a practical side where you can't be giving guys big contracts just because they work hard. And I think that O'Brien sometimes kind of put the cart before the horse when it came to guys like Nick Martin. All right, Nick Martin's works really hard. Takes weight room home equipment during COVID so he can keep working hard. But you got to produce. You can't give a guy a top 5 center salary when he actually hasn't produced it as a center. So I think the Texans have done a good job of establishing that culture. Nick Caserio on C.J. Stroud, obviously a very appropriate conversation about C.J. Stroud so far this training camp.
Yeah, I mean, CJ's had a good offseason. I mean, our expectations for him are no different than every other player. Just be the best you can be each day. Go out there and try to do the job to the best of your ability. I mean, if everybody does that and collectively as a team, we're going to be a pretty good spot. So, again, this program, and D'Amico has said it, I've said it, it's not about one player. It's not about one individual. It's not about one position. We're going to need everybody at some point to do their job, and the better they can do to prepare themselves for the rigors of the season, the better off we're all going to be. We'll take one in the back.
Yeah, and look, again, okay, there's the philosophy and then there's the execution. I think CJ 100% completely buys into that. And the difference this year being that CJ is going to have more command. And CJ can hopefully be in control of all 11 moving parts on the offense. So whether that's the offensive line, the tight ends, the wide receivers, adjusting and tweaking their routes beforehand, that he'll very much understand the importance of the run game. And I think he already did, but now he can be actually involved in the run game. If you think to a couple of years ago when Case Keenum was in the Tennessee game and they were in the red zone, and Case basically reset the mic before a run play, and it ended up being a successful run because that was a veteran quarterback who had seen a lot and took some command and was able to do it in that moment. CJ wasn't necessarily given that command last year, and as a younger player in an offense where the quarterback didn't have a lot of command, he was going to be very limited in what he can do. Nick Caserio is going to give him authority and command. Now it's just a matter of getting all of it like clockwork and getting the reps now during training camp. The one exciting thing about yesterday offensively where they were out there in no pads was that the quick game was working really well. So hey, you help the offensive line help you out at times just by getting the ball out of your hands quickly. Set up you can set up the deep shots with the run game, but you can set up the deep shots with the quick game too. Those old classic Patriots team where Tom Brady would be labeled as just a system quarterback or he's just a dinker and a dunker. Like, yeah, that's kind of the point. It's really, really hard to do that. Pat Mahomes took a step forward when he became a guy that when he had to was a dink and dunk guy, and that sets up your deep shots. Very excited about CJ and working with Nick Caserio. This is Cacerio on whether the offensive line culture has improved or if he's seen evidence of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, in the end, offensive line play is about attitude and it's about physical toughness. So, and being able to do, you got to be able to do certain number of things to, I would say, a competitive enough level. So, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. That's the Nick I know and love. Like I'm not like these guys can talk about toughness all you want. You guys know people who talk a big game. You've seen videos on social media of guys talking a big game to a former NHL enforcer, and then you get whomped. So I don't care how many tattoo sleeves you have or how much you talk about it during training camp. What happens when the pads come on? What happens when it's time to play big boy football? That's what we're going to see in a couple of days. Very interesting on the offensive line that compared to last year, where last year it looked like the offensive line was almost set in stone from day one. I was kind of skeptical about Kenyon Green just being put there at the top of the depth chart in ink, and that's where he would remain. Likewise with Juice Scruggs and him just being basically, it felt like given the job at center. There wasn't any real genuine competition there. Yesterday you saw them shuffle around the offensive line a lot. Ariante Ursary was the first guy out there at right tackle. I'm not reading too much into that. They're gonna keep shuffling around whatever the lineups were. The important thing was that the second time the ones came out there, it was a different configuration, different guys. So I think there will be genuine competition along the offensive line this year, and I think the standard in a lot of respects is, and as to how they're going to be judged, is what are you guys being physical? And here is Cacerio talking about building physicality on the O-line during training camp.
Games are won and lost on the fronts. So, you look across the league. So, and you build your mental and physical toughness, your physical play in training camp. So, once the pads come on, we'll have a better idea of what that looks like, what that entails. But it's been a good group to work with. They've had a good attitude. They work hard. They're coachable.
Yeah, one thing that was notable about yesterday was obviously it was in no pads, and yet they were really focusing on the run game. So the defense had some good plays, which is going to happen when you're in no pads. You can only be so physical. But a huge part of it is, and what I hope to see compared to last year, is that even when you're in no pads, getting everybody's footwork right, your first step, your second step. A lot of times the battle on the offensive line is won with that first and second step. And we go back to the last few years of offense, really, through multiple different coaches and coordinators. You could see without having an educated eye for it, you could tell that, okay, one of these things is not like the others, or two of these things are not like the others. How come this offensive lineman is going to the left while everybody else is going to the right, and he's running into one of the other guys going right? It's not like he was pulling or anything. He just flat out had it wrong. So these very basic things, you're not going to be able to tell a lot early from camp, but Kaylee's focusing on the right things. This one just because it's always interesting to me, at least from a nerdy standpoint. And in football, which tends to be behind the times compared to baseball and others when it comes to incorporating analytics or technology, here's a little blurb of Cacerio talking about implementing new technology.
We're always going to look at opportunities. We're not just going to use technology just to do it. Is there an application? Great. If there is and we can incorporate it, then we'll investigate it. If it doesn't work, then we'll look at something else. But it definitely has a place. Really, it has a place in all of our lives. But in football is no exception.
Yeah, one thing I really liked from the Bill Belichick book, and I put a link down below. I've read it twice now in the last month because I was skeptical at first, and then I really liked it. But he has a section in there about technology where you have to understand, and this is when Nick says it has a place in all of our lives. You can never look at anything new that comes out that's a time saver as something that says all of a sudden, oh, now I only have to work 6 hours a day, because your competition is using that technology too. So whenever you can adopt it and streamline with it, then that's great. And I don't know if the stream went dead or not. Somebody asked a question or something, but Sean Caldwell's comment is the last I've seen, and that tends to be that's atypical. Although a lot of you I know are hardworking and at work right now. So I'm going to call it that. We're going to have a lot of content coming out this week. I want to get to D'Amico's press conference from yesterday before he does another one today. Let's see if we died here.